Good afternoons, mamas. We are here. We're back for part two of how's your self-care plan? Did I say that right?
You said it right.
Last week I missed out. I was so sad because I had the tax lady. I was at the tax lady office. I had an appointment at 12 o'clock. Um, she was 2 hours behind. But having a good tax lady is self-care.
You're right, Devin.
It
I mean,
is.
that is so true. I mean, so many times we think self-care is I'm going to say painting our fingernails or painting our toenails or having quiet time but self-care, it can be getting your taxes done.
And not doing them yourself.
Yeah. So
Because my husband looked at me and said, "You can teach the kids how to do their taxes." And I was like, "No." So self-care is saying no too. I was like, "No," because they don't know how to do their taxes. That means I'm doing their taxes. And I promised myself when I grew up I was never doing taxes.
The other thing self-care can mean saying no,
Say no.
which can be a very difficult thing for so many of us.
It is for me.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Me too.
I had no problem last Monday at the tax lady office.
Yeah. Well, good for you. There's a step in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
Great. So this afternoon we are piping into both homeschooling supermoms. So hey to all the homeschooling supermoms, new and existing moms, and hello to all the group members and professional home educator. We are so excited that all of you have decided to join us today. As you guys know, we give workshops on a regular basis inside of our groups, and Devin and I have partnered together to deliver a lot of our workshops. And so we thought after last week's workshop, and just some different posts that have been taking place in our different groups, we thought it would be really a good idea to do a part two on homeschool self-care plans and really expand on that topic. So I think I'll go ahead and get started. You good with that, Devin?
Yeah.
All right. Well, here we go. So as so many of us are traveling through our homeschooling journey, we're all trying to be homeschooling supermoms, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, we want to do it all, and no doubt about it, we want to do it well. But as we all know, right, me, Devin, all of us watching, when it comes to being a homeschooling mom, we are super busy moms, right? Yeah. Absolutely. We have a lot on our plates. We have way too much to do. And of course, too little time to do it all in. So if you're watching this live and you can agree with us, go ahead and drop us a note inside the chat box.
Yeah.
Let us know that you kind of feel the same way. There's just too much going on, too much to do, and just not enough time to do it all in. And a busy homeschool life can leave very little time for us as individual mamas. And self-care is so important. So we have to find a little bit of time for self-care. And Devin and I want to expand on that, right? We really found that there's this huge need inside of our groups that we needed to really reach out to mamas and talk to them about self-care.
A lot of mamas dealing with burnout. That's what we've seen this week.
Absolutely, we have. And we're late into the spring, and we've been homeschooling for quite a while, and we're dealing with COVID. So people are cooped up and wishing that they could be out with friends and family members and things like that. So we're, like you said, Devin, we're all kind of feeling that burnout and need that breath of fresh air. So when it comes to self-care, we want to remind you guys that when it comes to self-care, it doesn't have to be expensive and it doesn't have to be time consuming. But the one thing that Devin and I wanted to caution you about is that lack of self-care can compromise our health.
And it does.
Mental health, physical health, and we just got to take good care of ourselves because we're the caregivers, right? So it's really important that we take good care of ourselves. And as Devin and I talk, because we talk, in case you guys haven't figured this out, we talk a lot and we connect a lot on a regular basis. And we talk very honestly about self-care and what we do for self-care, and what works well for Devin may not be the perfect fit for me, and what might be the perfect fit for me may not work well for Devin either. So we want to share with you that there's no one size fits all self-care plan. And that's why we thought it'd be really fun to kind of take a deeper dive into self-care and what that might look like. Devin, you want to speak on this one?
Okay, so no, okay. If you feel like you can't have a self-care plan, you are not alone. That is a normal reaction, and we all feel that way, especially when we're first trying to revamp our self-care. I think there's a lot of misconceptions. When we talk about self-care, we're not talking about me time. We're talking about taking care of our body and taking care of our mind so that we can actually give the best of ourselves to our kids. So you're not alone if you feel like
yeah, like if you haven't had a self-care plan or you
you're
don't
not
have
alone.
one in the future,
Norm.
this is normal for people not to have a self-care plan. And our goal is to kind of encourage you and give you some different ideas when it comes to self-care. So when it comes to self-care, we want you to know that you might want to schedule that and schedule it more than twice a year. Sometimes we think of it as just this itty bitty little moment in time and we only need to do it every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But really, we need to do it on a regular basis.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, self-care really shouldn't be, it's not an optional thing. You have got to take care of your body and your mind and your, just all the different parts of yourself and who you are. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I know that Devin had mentioned it toward the end of this. She kind of wanted to elaborate a little bit on how do you go about scheduling some of this stuff. So she's going to share it with you.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do it together. But Devin has some really great ideas when it comes to scheduling and how to manage to that schedule. This is another thing that we mamas are not so good at doing is having that self-care time guilt-free. Because a lot of times we feel guilty if we have that self-care. And as Devin had mentioned, it can mean time alone if you want just some time for you. That can be part of your self-care plan. But also your self-care plan doesn't always have to be alone. You can incorporate your kids into that and have that self-care time. But the one thing that I think moms can fall into is feeling guilty about making sure that they get some self-care into their regular plans. Oh, I kind of touched base on this. Again, it doesn't mean that you have to be alone when it comes to your self-care. And then Devin and I were talking about this. We're going to share with you on 4 different levels about self-care. We're going to how to break them into categories, but then we're going to pull them together. And so these are the 4 that we're going to touch on today. But Devin's going to tell you a little bit more about these different categories.
About 8. I'll have to find the article and post it for y'all. But there's about 8 different areas of self-care. And one is financial. And that was a really mind-boggling for me because I didn't realize I had not even thought about that as a part of self-care. And they interweave with each other. I mean, if you are having money problems in your house, then you may not feel like you have the money to do different parts of self-care. You have to get a little bit more creative to work that out. So we're going to talk about 4, but just keep in mind that there are about 8, and I'll post an article.
Yeah, and as Devin mentioned, they really kind of weave together. We're going to break them apart and then put them back together, but they really do, whether you do the 4 categories that we're going to share with you today or the 8 categories, they really do weave together.
Because if you think about it, there are not 8 Devins running around. We are a whole, and we're a very intricate whole, and we're all different. So
exactly. And while we want to try to do a component to all those different 8 categories, or maybe today's all 4 different kinds of categories, we can't always get to them all. And the goal should be to try to, but that doesn't mean you're always going to get to it.
Yeah, but they do overlap and they can affect each other.
Exactly. So we can talk about physical exercise and healthy eating. That's oftentimes what people think about when they think about self-care. But you also need self-care when it comes to mental. How's your mental health, your mental state, your attitude? How are you feeling about things? Confident? Are you feeling not so confident, things like that. You also have your emotional and spiritual self. This means how do you take care of yourself internally? How do you nurture yourself along? And then, of course, you have social, because we're social beings, right? So we need to interact with other people. And like I said, we have these in these different categories, but like Devin and I have shared with you that they do interweave. Again, we're going to keep pulling them apart for just a moment, and then we're going to weave them back together. So last week, as you guys know, we kind of looked at those 4 different components, and we talked about physical, and physical may not just necessarily mean exercise or eating. It could be sleeping. It could be taking vitamins. If you're into essential oils, things like that.
Going to a doctor's appointment.
Yeah, so it can be so many different things in the physical area. And your exercise doesn't have to be the go to the gym and crunches and things like that. It could be as simple as walking the dog. Then you have your mental mind or your knowledge, where you maybe want to, grow your mind or mental capacity, things like that, where you might want to read a book or take a class or try a new hobby or even do your existing hobbies. You might want to join a book club, that kind of stuff. Emotional and spiritual, I like things that uplift me. So when we talk about emotional and spiritual here, we're sharing with you quotes and reading and journaling and quiet time with coffee or tea or worship. But we mentioned to you guys that these can cross over. So I want to talk about emotional and spiritual for just a second. Your emotional and spiritual can be your fellow homeschooling moms that you meet with, your accountability partner, or like Devin and I, we meet on a regular basis. Sometimes it's to talk about how we're moving our groups forward, but sometimes it's just to connect as homeschooling moms. And we don't live near each other. We're 40 minutes apart from each other. So it's a Zoom meeting. So when we talk about emotional and spiritual, you can have that crossover, because that's also social, right? So we can meet together. And so Devin uplifts me, no doubt about that. She also, when we talk about our Facebook groups, we brainstorm on ideas. So there's our mental capacity, and we're expanding that information. And then, physical, I guess if Devin and I got together and walked while we were talking about all this kind of great stuff, I guess, but do you see how
do good?
It probably do us a ton of good, but that's how they all weave together. And we want you guys to know that, one, they don't have to be expensive, and they do interweave with one another and things like that. So I'm going to jump on over to social for just a second. They can be Zoom meetings with friends and family. I love Zoom. Devin and I Zoom on a regular basis. If periodic regular basis, Zoom is free. So just some ideas for you guys. If you are not connecting with other people and you want a way to do it while COVID is taking place, try a Zoom meeting. They're free.
Easy thing to do.
It really is. It might be intimidating at first, but it really is quite easy to do. Then you've got, of course, you can do that, take a class where you're interacting with other people, either online or face-to-face. But remember, taking a class goes into your mental, and it can go into your emotional and spiritual. So like we said, they can kind of weave together. So we wanted to also share with you some creative self-care ideas. I'm sorry, Devin, I didn't ask if you had anything you wanted to elaborate on that last slide. I'm sorry.
I was reading and thinking, oh my goodness, what good ideas.
So we want to share with you some creative self-care ideas that they were posts related into some of our groups. And we want to share some of those ideas with you, as well as some of our own self-care plans. So we've been sharing some information with you on self-care, but we want you guys to know that as we're doing this live, or if you're watching it as a recording, by all means, drop us a note what you do for your self-care plan. You might spark a new idea for another mom, because we're all in this together, right? We're here to nurture each other along and to share and take care of one another. So drop us a note.
Yeah. Let us know what to do.
Exactly. So one of the ideas that was shared in the post earlier this week was, and Devin and I were talking about this earlier, is clean the house as a family. I'm going to tell you guys, and I'm almost embarrassed to tell you guys this, but I tend to do this on my own. And it's not that my family's not willing to help me. They are. It's just, for some reason, I hog the task. And I don't need to. But if I did share it as a family, just think how much faster it would get done, how it might free up some time for me to have some other types of self-care, some things like that. So,
And it also may give some bonding if you're together as a family, turn on some music, dance around.
yeah, because you
To
did
give
a
you time to
dancing
talk.
video where you guys were cleaning and stuff as a
Yeah, we
family.
do. Yeah, we do that kind of stuff all the time. When I work alone, I put on my earphones and I dance around with my earphones. But when the kids are with me, I'll turn the music up and we just clean together.
Yeah, and so, don't feel like you have to do these things alone.
Um,
And, clean as a couple. Maybe your spouse will get involved and help out with some cleaning to, again, alleviate some time so that you can have a little bit more fun in your self-care plan. Because to me, I feel better when my house is clean. And
yeah, I do too.
yeah, so, you could do it as a family program. And then we wanted to touch base on asking for help watching the kids. And that tends to be, that you can ask your spouse to help you out to free up some time so they can watch the kids if you're needing some alone time. Because there are times we do need that alone time. And sometimes we don't need it alone. We just need to have some time to be able to do the things that we need to do and want to do for our self-care and to refresh and to renew. So this is something that I did. I wanted to kind of expand on play dates. I know a lot of people do play dates or play clubs with their kids. This is something I did. I was a single parent for a period of time with my oldest child, and I had to have some time. And my parents weren't living in the area, and so I was really on my own. And so what I did was I found other parents that had kids. I only had one son at the time that had kids my son's age. It didn't matter to me if they had multiple kids or one kid. And what I did was, as a small, very, very small group, and I'm just kind of add my slides here, points on my slides, we limited how many people we would involve in this project. And what we did was every Friday, one of the moms needed to take the kids, and we rotated the Fridays, and it was from like 9 o'clock to noon. All parents had to pick up their kids by noon. The parent that did the gathering provided a snack. They provided an easy and inexpensive craft to do. They might have an easy to watch video, or like a little movie and things like that, so that the other moms could have that break. Your kids got socialization, and as a mama, you got to be around other kids and get ideas and craft ideas, and you got to have some fun leading some activities. But on the day that you didn't have the assigned play date, you could go grocery shopping on your own. You could go have a spa day, go get your nails done. Maybe you just wanted to go home and have a cup of coffee and read a book. You could do whatever you wanted to do. So we wanted to make sure that we shared that idea with you, that play dates right now are at the parks with these big groups. It's not always an option right now, but sometimes in these smaller groups and everyone's well, you might be able to do some different play dates with
Mhm.
specific parents.
Yeah, it's a very good option.
Clean while you fix dinner, or have others clean while you fix dinner, or let
Yeah,
them fix dinner and you
I love
clean.
that idea.
I do too. I mean, why can't the kids pick up the toys while we're fixing dinner and get things ready?
Yeah, and I have teens who clean the bathroom now, so
Hey, I'm all over that one. That sounds great.
yeah.
So we also talked about how you don't have to be alone. And when it comes to your self-care plan and the things you could do stroller walks as a family. You can do nature walks. If you want to, take your grocery bags, your leftover grocery bags that you have, and have them collect pine cones or acorns or
Mhm.
different colored leaves or rocks, and then maybe bring the rocks home and paint them. But that kind of gives everybody that fresh air, that break, and you can kind of ponder and think and refresh and renew. And then, of
Yeah.
course, you can always go to the park and the playgrounds.
Yeah.
I love this idea too. This was shared in Devin's group specifically. I love this idea that a mom shared, and she said, you can do your hobby while your kids do their hobbies. Do them all at the same time. Try to figure out a great way for them to do a hobby that's kind of quiet and not messy, but just some neat little hobbies for them to do while you do yours, because our hobbies can refresh us and renew us also. And self-care.
No size fits all. Everybody's different.
Everybody's different. We're all at different stages. Some of us have multiple children. Some of us just have one or two or three. Some of us have younger kids. Some of us have middle school kids. Some of us have high school kids. Some of us have all those different age ranges. So there's no one size fits all. But our whole goal was to try to give you some ideas to just really get creative with some ideas with self-care.
Yeah.
So again, we want to ask you guys, what do you do for your self-care programs? What do you do? How do you build it into your schedules? And so that is something that we want to talk about, is your self-care plan, jot down your ideas, but also scheduling your self-care time. So Devin, I want to kind of...
I've got some ideas for y'all. The first thing when we were talking in my group about, I suggested that if you're feeling burnout and exhausted, you've got to have an honest conversation. If you have a husband, with your husband, that's the first person you go to. Or who your support help. If you like, maybe you're a single mom and you have your parents close by and they're your support help. You have to have an honest talk. With husbands, I would not frame it in an emotional way. I know if y'all are like me, you're prone to start crying while you're talking about something. Don't frame it that way. They don't know how to deal with that. Poor guys. But frame it as a business. If you, as a homeschool mother, you have taken on a job that is a career that people get paid for. They also, most teachers do not probably get a lunch hour, and they may not get a break time. But when I worked as a teacher's assistant, I had 2 15-minute breaks and a lunch hour. So you frame it in that way. You say, okay, I need a teacher's work day or a teacher's mental health day. You have to frame it in a business way. So your first thing is to talk and to see what he will do. Now, some husbands are very workable, some are not. We all know, some wives are workable, some are not. So you've got to see what you've got first. If you can't schedule that, then you need to find your support group. You need to find moms that will schedule with you, and y'all can all take breaks together like Susan suggested. So that's your first thing. But once you can get that worked out, then you look at your calendar. Even if you can't find anything, you look at your calendar and you put something on your calendar. Look 1 or 2 weeks ahead. You schedule a block of time that you can think about self-care and make a plan where you can take that deep breath, drink your hot chocolate, and say, okay, what do I feel like I need to work on? Now, when I first started putting self-care back into my business and my time, about, I guess it's almost 2 years ago, my first goal was to go to the doctor. I had not been to the doctor in almost 2 years, and I needed to work on my physical body. And that still stays up pretty high on my agenda because I have health issues. So your first thing is to, you schedule that time to take your deep breath and figure out what you want to work on first. And you just make a list, but realize you can't tackle all of it at one time. You're just going to make a list of what you think you need to work on now. Then you look back at your schedule and you write it down. It's just like when you work, you knew you were working those 5 days. When you're scheduling yourself into your time, you look at your schedule and you start putting yourself on the schedule. That's a teacher. You can call it teacher work day, teacher mental health day, whatever you want. But you have to realize that as a professional home educator, because that's what we are, whether you're in my group or Susan's group, you are treating this like a career, and you cannot teach your children effectively if you're not taking care of yourself. So that's one of my big, y'all know me, I say this all the time. So that's what you're going to do, is that's your job. You post below in the comments look at your calendar and tell me what date you're taking off to take that you're taking that block of time. Even if the kids are in the house, you're taking that block of time to do a self-evaluation on what you want to work on. I mean, it can be after the kids go to bed, you get your hot coffee, your tea, your hot chocolate, whatever you want to drink, you get your notebook, you write down what you want to work on. And you pick your schedule time. So we want to know when you're scheduling this so we can keep you on our agenda. And I'll say, hey, what happened? Then you'll start making a point, every week, every 2 weeks, at least once a month, you're scheduling a teacher mental health day. Teacher work day would be for working for, your teacher mental health day, whatever you want to call it. That's how you're going to go. And that's how you start. Is that a pretty good way to start? I mean, because especially if it hadn't been on your calendar, you've got to start working on getting yourself on your calendar.
Exactly. And like Devin said, maybe it's just a few minutes. Maybe you're going to get up 15 minutes early. It's just this little bitty increment of time, and you give yourself that 15 minutes of just for you. Or like Devin said, maybe the kids are in bed and you have that cup of hot chocolate, you know.
And the thing is you remember you're in a season. Like when my kids were small, I could not always just drop everything and hide from them and take 30 minutes. I had to be creative with my time alone. But as they get older, you're able to schedule more. And eventually they become middle school and high schoolers. And then you can say, hey, I'm going off to have a teacher's work day for the morning and head to the library, and they can stay home for an hour or two alone. So, that season of time doesn't stay where you are now. So if it seems too much now, it probably won't stay that way.
Exactly. You're right. We do have seasons. Some seasons are more difficult than others.
Yeah.
So just kind of work with your season and with your plan, but do try to get some time in there for you. Got to take care of the caregiver. You're very, very important.
Yes, you are.
All right. So we're looking for when you're going to go and evaluate and assess and decide how you might want to do some self-care and when you might put it in your schedule. And then again, we're looking for ideas of what do you do for your self-care plan? Because again, this can help others as well.
Yeah, because sometimes when you're first starting, it's overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely. So little bites of chunks of time will be very, very helpful because again, you're looking for peace of mind. Because when you get that peace of mind, you're going to feel like this.
All relaxed with your coconut.
That's right. That's right. All right. How's your self-care plan? We're hoping you guys are working on your self-care plans. You're improving those self-care plans and finding a little time just for you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, mamas. We're so grateful that you've spent some time with us today. Parents, I guess I should say, professional home educators. There's men and women in there. There's men and women actually in my group too. So again, we're so excited. Welcome to our new members to both groups, Homeschooling Supermoms and Professional Home Educator. And we thank our existing group members for joining us. Let us know if there's other workshops you're looking for.
Yeah.
Join us. Yep. Join us later this week. We're looking forward to some additional workshops. So see you soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.